Welcome to our final step in the VSM implementation roadmap, and we are joined by Fonz from Netflix. Fonz, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Hello, everyone. My name is Fonz Morris. I am one of the lead product designers for monetization and global conversion at Netflix. I focus on various projects depending on are we doing acquisition or retention, but my main goal is to keep Netflix as being the number one streaming platform. So that's what most of my time is spent doing.
Certainly
Really
my
glad to be
number
here.
one streaming platform, and we're very happy to have you here, virtually at least. Anyway, so as I said, we have reached the end of Flowtopia nearly. We're at the adapt step, and Fonz is going to talk to us about his experiences. So Fonz, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about how you discovered value stream management?
Sure. I feel as if my understanding of value stream management almost evolved over time as opposed to a colleague or me learning about it from research. As the kind of products that you build grow in complexity, the need to have a process is really, really important, and a framework to help you kind of stay on track is really important, not necessarily to box you into anything, but to allow you to stay focused, because depending on how fast you need to move or how many cross-functional partners you have, you want to be able to foster alignment between the team and make sure that the communication is high and make sure that everybody is prioritizing the right things. So guessing is not enough sometimes. Yes, we want to be creative and things like that, but you want to have all these moving pieces aligned together, solving the same problem. And value stream management really helps do that. So I would say over time, I've grown to understand that you need something like this to help with solving these problems to get from end to end. When I first started in design, I think I was just trying to launch products and get it out there. I wasn't thinking about it as in depth as I do now. So frameworks like VSM allows me to make sure that I'm covering all of the steps, and it's flexible. Sometimes you don't need every step. I think it's more of just having this pathway to use to help with your product, however you need to use it.
Fabulous. Let's talk about some of these metrics that you use then. So how do you measure how successful you are using these kind of frameworks at your work?
So it's interesting because, as everyone knows, Netflix is a very diverse company with the kinds of products and solutions that we're solving. So once again, it depends on, is this an acquisition thing where we're focused on converting users? Maybe we want to increase signups for a specific plan, or we want to make sure that we're converting users that land on our sign up flow. So those metrics are a lot different than metrics that would be on the retention side of how do we keep people from churning? How do we keep people from, stop people from downgrading their plans or putting their plan on hold? So the metrics vary, but I want to be clear that yes, as a growth specialist, revenue is important, but revenue is far from the end all be all. Certain teams don't even focus on revenue at all. Their focus is customer joy. So my team does focus on revenue, but it is at the top of the list where a lot of things kind of build up into that. And that's where we break things down and generate individual hypotheses to try to solve these individual problems that will all build up to this bigger solution of increasing revenue for the company. And the value hypothesis change. They can be suggested by anybody, a product manager, designer, engineer. We're all focused on the same goal. So we start with the hypothesis first. And then we usually go into some rounds of internal qualitative research to see if, have we ever done this before? Are there any existing learnings that we can have? And if this is a good idea and we have not thought about this before, then we would move into a version of qualitative research where now we can talk to customers and see, is this the right problem to be solving? And doing this research at the beginning, it saves us time in the long run, and it saves us money in the long run because it's very expensive to build things. So you want to make sure that if you do go into the point of building something, it's the right thing to build. So we spend a lot of time in this early identify stage, and we're always curious and innovative about the solutions, but we also use the data and use the cross-functional nature of our team structure to be very confident about the decisions that we make. Meaning, I work closely with the data science team. I work closely with my front-end, back-end engineering. I work closely with my UX research team, content design team, product manager, program managers. So many different people work together, all to bring their expertise together to make sure that we're solving these problems for these users.
So lots of metrics there for different scenarios. This is from our very recent State of VSM report 2023. Take a look at this and tell us about these different metrics and what they mean to you.
Yeah, so there's so many. This is interesting to see. This actually breaks down into different teams worry about these different metrics. I'm fortunate enough to be on a team, the growth team, that I worry about quite a few of these. I definitely worry about user acquisition. I worry about visitors to the platform. I worry about our active users. I worry about churn rate. I worry about conversion rates. I worry about feature usage because my team sometimes introduces new features. So you want to know, was that the right feature? How are people using it or not? Profit and margin is just the overall arching, very, very important metric. So the referrals, not as much, but there's a specific team that does worry about that, which would be our partnership team. And that's actually really important for us. And session time is more on our member team. They're the ones that are building the UI that our users interact with. So stickiness would also tie into session time. And those are really important when you think of you're focused on customer joy, keeping people happy and making sure that they want to keep paying for Netflix every month when there's such a large group of competitors out there nowadays. The amount of streaming platforms have 3-4x in the last couple of years. So we really have to make sure that things like stickiness and session time stay high and bounce rate and churn rate stay low. And NPS is really high as well, which is overall, what do people think about the platform? So all of these metrics are really important to us. I just think certain teams focus on them more, but my team is one of the teams where a lot of these come up in our conversations and decisions that we're making.
I love how you talk about customer joy over customer satisfaction and even over customer delight. How easy is it to measure customer joy? Is that all through NPS or are there other ways?
It's actually very complicated. And it's funny that we're having this conversation because I just had this conversation last week in a meeting, and there is no exact way. Like, there's no one specific metric. I think you can say, of course, people churning is, if your churn rate is high, I'm guessing your customer joy is low. If your stickiness is high, I'm guessing your customer joy is high because people are on the platform. If your session time is high, your customer joy is high because people are finding stuff that they like to see. If your active users are going down, then that means your customer joy is low because people are finding other things to do with their time. So there's no one specific metric that can correlate exactly to customer joy, but you can kind of piece them all together to build some form of an equation to let you know how are people feeling about your platform, as well as having a more general, broad statistic like NPS.
So let's talk about what you do around the adapt step in particular. So how are you using VSM practices to learn and change the way that you're doing throughout a product lifecycle?
Product life cycles. So once again, the product ranges, the type of products that we work on at Netflix range drastically because just the platform is a product. So inside of there, like I said, there's member and then there's commerce. So those different products vary differently. So, and some things are what we consider as a just do, where some things we need to test this. So depending on, or this may be a gigantic product enhancement that we need everybody to work on. And for instance, a product like that could be, a project like that could take almost 2 to 3 years. I've worked on a project that took about 2.5 years, as well as I've worked on a project that we were able to roll out in less than 3 months. So because the product cycles are long, the longer ones have many points of feedback, and really excited to be able to work at an organization that values consumer research and has the resources to either generate designs or build prototypes and get them in front of customers to be able to learn from customers, and then to be able to be flexible enough to make edits based off that data. So we're always going to take the first step and say, hey, this is what we think the customer needs based off of some form of early research, but we're going to put it in front of the customer to learn, is this the right thing to be working on or not? Are they excited about the idea? Is this the wrong idea? And if it's the wrong idea, make that tough decision to pivot to something else. Or if it's the right idea, now we would use that data to figure out what the next steps will be. But what we consider something as being live at Netflix is productized, and that's when it's in the platform for all 240 plus million users to use. That takes a long time because we don't want to ever roll anything back. So to make sure that something works and solves the problem for that many users is a very complex step. And there's a lot of people that have to be in teams that need to align to get that to happen. So the longer products, you get a lot of points of feedback. For the shorter ones, we still do feedback, and we're always utilizing that feedback. That's the part that everybody has to know about Netflix is feedback is one of the most important parts of the company, because we always want to make sure that we're developing and building the right solution for our users. So even all the way up to the end of a project where we do retros for pretty much every project if we can. We love retros. I personally think retros are amazing because, yes, I want to go over the wins and I want to congratulate my team. I'm all about promoting success, but we also want to revisit the parts where maybe we could have been a little more sharper or a little more efficient. So that's what you get out of the retro. And a retro can be led or suggested by anybody, not just a PM, a designer, engineer, content designer, manager. Anybody can suggest or lead a retro, because we all know that they're really important because of the feedback that we can get. And now we use that feedback to help determine what the next steps of this project will be. How much maintenance will this need? Are there any things that we need to fix that we move to a backlog that we can discuss? It's just another way to keep the conversation going, because products at Netflix don't stop the day that they get launched. That's almost like just the first phase of it. And now the second phase is maintaining and making sure that it works, and did it solve the problem and things like that.
Let's finish up then by talking about a summary of what you have learned, things value stream management has taught you. How have you changed your ways of working with what you've learned about value streams?
I would say product design is unpredictable. Even though you have these different steps, they're just frameworks and ideas to help you, but you never really know until you get into it what that outcome will be. I'm sure there's been a lot of products that people came up with that thought were going to be big successes that wasn't, and there was little ones that nobody thought would ever grow that ended up being massive ones. At Netflix, I remember one product that we worked on as a company. We were really confident in the solution. Eyes being one of the lead designers on there, we had spent a lot of time coming up with the solution, and we were going into this last round of qualitative research before we would move it into the phase where we would really work with engineering to get it built. And it just so happens that those rounds of qualitative research did not go as positive as we thought. Honestly, all of the customers didn't like the idea. They didn't resonate with them. there was some communication breakdown, there was some complexity. And even though as a team, we thought that was the best solution that we were going to roll with, we ended up having to go all the way back to the assess phase and start over, because if we would have rolled that idea out, it could have been a multi-billion-dollar loss for the company because customers just wasn't that really excited about it. So instead, we revisited the problem and took another 2.5 years to get it figured out. But when we finally rolled it out, it was so successful that it kind of blew our mind that it was that successful, because when you looked at the first versions of it, customers really wasn't that interested in it. But the way we were able to adapt and change and grow and make the edits and the improvements that we need to roll out to a global 240 million people, 190 countries. I definitely learned that from VSM, as well as each step is essential, but depending on the scale of the project or the size or the amount of resources you have, yes, we're Netflix, we can go through every single step. Maybe a smaller company might not be able to go through every step, but I think you still recognize each step. And now you decide how much time you want to spend in each step, but it's okay to skip. Like I said, this is flexible. You don't know what won't work, but you want to be able to have things like this to help you stay focused and cover the necessary things, because we're building really complex products here, and skipping certain steps can really come back to bite you in the end. So you really want to also focus on things like end-to-end. We spend a lot of end-to-end mapping and visualizing because we want to think about all the potential things before we even get to that step. So we have specific individuals that will do end-to-end mapping, as well as everybody looks at projects from the holistic perspective of it, as opposed to just one little slice, because before you know it, you'll be at this next piece and you always want to have some type of preparation for it. So this work doesn't stop. It keeps going. Like I said, 0 to 1, maybe getting the idea supported by the company. Then we have to go through the testing, and then we have to roll it out. And then once we roll it out, we have to maintain it. We want to do more testing on it, maybe improve it. So these projects keep going, and the life cycles get shorter, increase, get shorter, increase. But you do need something like VSM to be able to just help you stay organized and manage these massive projects with these cross-functional partners that all have different perspectives and different goals, but you can use things like this to help keep the team aligned.